No one.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Gators Online Show. I am Keith Niebuhr. That is senior Gators Online reporter Zach Alberverdi. Zach, it's finally game week. We made it. We survived. It's been a long talking season, as they say.
That's right.
We've had to really just talk, kind of like what I'm doing right now. So we've got a lot to go over. Florida plays Long Island University Saturday night at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. We're all excited about that. I know the team is. I know the other team is. I know the fans are. And really, this is a season that is one of the more anticipated Florida seasons, really, Zach, in some time. But before we get into a lot of different breakdowns and injury updates and game predictions and breakout player predictions, we do have to read a quick ad, and then we'll jump right into it. So take it away, Zach.
Absolutely. We got a new sponsor for you guys, and that is GameTime.co. And you guys know how it is once football season is back. You want to be there. You want to be in the stands. You want to experience the games. But sometimes it can be tough to get tickets. Sometimes you can even get scammed. You don't have to worry about that at Game Time. The app gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing tickets and experiences in a few taps. Incredibly easy to use. And the Game Time guarantee means you can trust you'll get 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price. Plus, fees are always included, so what you see is what you pay. And they are fees that include all type of tickets, not just college football games. There's concerts, but you can get college football tickets for as low as $25. And Keith, I know that you like to get around, get to some concerts when you get out of state, and you've used this Game Time app before.
Yeah, Zach, I'm a big time traveler, man. I mean, world traveler, No, but every couple of months I get cabin fever, and friends of mine and I just get in a plane and go somewhere, usually to California or New York or somewhere like that, just to have something to do, get out and see new things. And this Game Time app has really been a savior for me, because sometimes, in the old days, you just Google what's going on in Los Angeles. And now I've got this app that I use, and it's made it effortless. I wanted Dodger tickets. I got Dodger tickets. I wanted Padre tickets. I got Padre tickets, all very seamless. Just, with a push of a couple buttons, which, Zach, I hate to admit it, as I get a little older, this technology stuff gets a little more difficult for me, but the Game Time app has been a piece of cake.
Keith, you even got tickets to that throwback Backstreet Boys concert that you wanted to check out.
Come on, man. Give me a break. Give me a break. Now, I will say this. I do go to some of those throwback concerts, but it's more of 80s pop music, not that.
Yeah, and you've been to some hip-hop ones, too. So if you guys are looking for shows like that, certainly college football games, take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code ON3 for 20% off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code at ON3, ON3, the number, for 20% off. Swipe, tap, and go download the Game Time app today.
All right, Zach, we've got some football to talk about. We're going to get back up on the screen. There we are. All right. So, look, there's a lot to discuss because it was a busy offseason. There was a lot of I don't want to say drama, but there was a lot of intrigue. First of all, Florida, as you know, and everybody listening knows, won its last 4 games of the 2024 season to finish 8-5. So all of a sudden you go from thinking, man, is this staff going to make it, to, hey, I think this staff and these players might have turned things around. And so Florida goes into this offseason with a lot of promise, but then spring practice starts, Zach, and lo and behold, DJ Lagway isn't throwing and doesn't throw for the entirety of spring practice. And so as he dealt with a lower body / shoulder injury, as it was deemed by Billy Napier, there started to be, I don't want to say panic, but the intrigue grew. As he got healthy, he then hurt his calf just the week before fall practice started, and he was limited early. But now the good news is Billy Napier has said, through your great reporting, we know this, that DJ Lagway is back to 100%, and he is going to start this weekend. But, Zach, it's always the injuries. Everybody always wants to know about the injuries because guys get dinged up in spring camp and fall camp and all that stuff. So what is the latest on DJ Lagway right now? And what can you tell us? And what's the feedback been, the vibe over at the Gators headquarters? And then we're going to ask you about some of the other guys that have been dealing with a few things.
Yeah, I mean DJ obviously is the top storyline with this team, regardless of the injury stuff. Like had he had a regular offseason, everybody would still be pumped to see this guy because he was fantastic as a freshman, obviously leading forward on that 4-game win streak, but just what he brought to the offense and how dynamic he can be in the passing game. It's going to be exciting to see him out there on the field again. I would assume that he's going to have a conservative approach, and there will be probably a limit as to how much we see him before they get some other guys in the game once they build a big lead. But I think DJ to be able to come out, this is going to be his first career start in a season opener, and an opportunity for him to make up for some of that missed time that he had throughout the off season. And let's be honest, I've said it before, I'll say it again. You couldn't ask for a better opponent to have your starting quarterback try to regain his rhythm and get back in football condition with this type of matchup. It is the perfect setup for him, for this offense. And obviously there's going to be a lot of guys that get to showcase what they do on that side of the ball. As much as we want to see DJ and those receivers, they're probably going to hand the ball off a lot as well, give those bevy of backs a chance to showcase what they can do. A lot of receivers that are going to get some action as well. And then on the defensive side, Keith, we're going to get to see a lot of players, we would imagine, but we're also going to get to see this starting lineup probably certainly for the first half and just see where they're at coming off of what was an incredible stretch to close out the season. That brand of defense that they played was very dominant, and they're looking to carry that over into 2025. And then, there's some intrigue too on special teams, new punter, some new kick returners and punt returners as well.
Back to DJ for a second. We've spent the last show specifically talking about, what could have been lost from the time when he wasn't throwing and when he had the calf issue. And we mentioned that, chemistry building with receivers, not a lot of time with live bullets coming at him, but they don't seem, and by the way, even Billy Napier said it wasn't ideal, but there doesn't seem to be great concern out of Gainesville that anymore. They seem like, it feels like everybody's ready to roll. They don't seem overly worried about that. One thing I wanted to bring up, though, was in this whole process, and you've written about this a few times, Zach, DJ Lagway, in dealing with some of these injuries, worked with a couple quarterback gurus over in Jacksonville to retool and rework his throwing motion a little bit. And I don't know about you, but I've talked to people who think that he's never thrown it better. So what do you hear about that?
Yeah, I actually asked Napier about it on Wednesday night because it's something that we have learned through our reporting, and then DJ himself even talked about it at SEC Media Days. So it is something that he worked on, was to kind of tweak his motion a little bit. And here's what Billy had to say about it. He said that DJ has done a great job improving the efficiency of his feet, and also the delivery is much more concise. And he's much more efficient. He's spinning the ball, the velocity of the spin rates, the highest that it's been since he's been here. So he's done a good job. He gave credit to Tom Gormley, who's in Jacksonville, that he went to go work with throughout the offseason to kind of, change his motion. And a lot of that, Keith, as you can imagine, was done in part because of his shoulder issue. And to take that into account, maybe to improve his motion in a way that it wasn't going to aggravate it in the future, and also just get the most out of his throws and certainly his delivery. So I'm as along with a lot of other things with DJ, I am looking forward to seeing him throw the ball and what that new motion could look like and how that could help him be better.
Yeah, we talked to his agent, Derek Jackson, who grew up in Gainesville, played quarterback at Gainesville High, and he's mentioned that, obviously this was done, the retooling of the throwing motion to help with the injury situation. Like you said, it's going to put a lot less pressure on areas that hurt DJ last year that he fought through. This is a tough kid that played hurt a lot of the last season, and so you're going to see an improved throwing motion. And as well as he threw the deep ball last year, Zach, the shorter and intermediate throws, he didn't throw as well, which was surprising because anybody can throw it so perfectly 50 yards downfield. You think, it's going to be so much easier for them to throw short, but it's a different kind of whole setup and everything. But he's throwing those short passes very well. And his agent, obviously Derek's his agent. He's not, he's impartial and he knows it and he's honest about that. He's a great guy. But he says, look, I think that this guy is going to be throwing better than you've ever seen him throw before. So there's a lot of reason for optimism with DJ Lagway. Zach, he wasn't the only player that was dinged up a little bit at certain times during this off season. You've got some updates on some other key players for Florida. Who do you got?
Yeah, obviously huge news for Florida when it was confirmed by Billy that DJ would in fact play on Saturday. We did hear from Aaron Gates as well. I think it was the expectation that he was going to play, but still to officially ask him, which I did, would he play against Long Island? He is full go. He can't wait to get out there on the field again, and obviously it's going to mean a lot for him coming off of that season-ending injury. His turnaround to be ready that soon after the Ole Miss game, which was obviously toward the end of the year, regular season finale at home. It says a lot about his work ethic and what he's done to get to this point. There was still, I think, at least maybe some thought in my mind that maybe they would hold him for the first game, just not because they needed to, but just because they could. But that's not going to happen. We are going to see Jamari Lyons play as well. That's been expected. He's been playing in the scrimmages, but nonetheless, this is still his first game since 2023. Did not play at all in 24 after getting injured in training camp. So that's going to be a big moment for him. And then some news at Gators Online that we reported on Thursday is that Eugene Wilson has been practicing this week and is going to play on Saturday against Long Island, which is another great development for him and this team and this offense, as he'll be his first game back since his season-ending injury. So I think that there was maybe some expectation that he would be good to go for week one, but he did miss most of training camp. We didn't really see him do much after that first Saturday when he got injured. And maybe the thought was that again, this would be somebody that they could potentially save if they needed to. But all indications are that he will practice or that he will play and start against the Sharks. So some guys that we're not as sure on, Keith, is, Caleb Banks and Pup Howard. I think that if this was a big time game, both of them 100% would be playing. Again, I just wonder if that there's any thought of maybe holding those guys. But we'll find out on Saturday. The two that we do expect to not play would be Dallas Wilson and LJ McCray. Both of those guys have been week to week with some lower body injuries. Missed the end of training camp. So those guys should be back soon. Within the next week or two potentially. But don't expect those guys to play in the opener.
Okay. I got to say, Jamari Lyons, defensive lineman, going to play the nose position. Aaron Gates, defensive back who plays that nickel star position. Those are two really great stories. So a year ago in training camp, you said Jamari Lyons was injured. It was a broken ankle, correct? Was that what it was?
Yeah, compound fracture.
Bad ankle injury, had emergency surgery, later had to go back and have more surgery, was in a wheelchair for a while. I mean, and then Aaron Gates sustained, what was it with him? An ACL injury last year against Ole Miss, second play of the game. This guy was playing lights out at the star position, Zach. He had started 5 games during the season, 3 games in a row. Against Georgia, he had an interception. He returned at 30 yards. Against LSU, or actually against Texas, had a big game. I think he led the defense in tackles. The next week against LSU, he had a big game. He had a lot of tackles, some tackles for losses, and actually had a key stop on 3rd and 2 that forced an LSU punt. Florida ended up scoring the next series. So, he was really hitting his stride. And he tore his ACL. Not only did he tear his ACL, that was his second torn ACL. He tore another one back when he was in high school. Just 2 amazing stories. Guys you really want to root for. And when I read their interviews, Zach, I thought it was great. And you're around these players a lot more than I am. But I thought it was great to see that both of these guys said, see and hear them say about how their teammates really got behind them and cheered them on, not only in the weight room and off-season conditioning, but the first day back out at practice and things like that. And they really have built, it seems like, a strong culture over there. And look, I think that's most teams. I mean, you're always pulling for the guys beside you, but nonetheless, it's good to hear those types of stories. You want these guys to like each other because if you're a fan, especially, because that means they're going to play hard for each other. They're going to try to lift each other up, not only in the weight room, not only in practice, but the goal would be that carries over to Saturday. So two amazing stories there. Jamari Lyons, Zach, he can be a dominant player up front. What's the word? What do people at UF headquarters think about him?
Yeah, I mean he's a big guy coming back for the Gators, Keith, and I'll mention too that with Eugene Wilson, Jamari Lyons, and Aaron Gates, all of them were named to the preseason watch list for 2025 Comeback Player of the Year. So all three of those guys will be out there Saturday in the season opener, and it's going to be big for them. It's going to be big for Florida's defensive line that they've got Jamari Lyons back because they lost Cam Jackson, lost Desmond Watson, had some other attrition at that nose tackle position. So you needed to have somebody kind of step up and emerge. You got Mekhi Barrow there, and they really like him and what he's going to be able to do this year. But Jamari is, a starting level type player and was primed to break out in 2024 before his injury. So to have him back, to have him healthy, to have him kind of, from all indications that we've heard, picking up where he left off, that's huge for this defense. Keith, we actually had one of our insiders over at Gators Online, a great Gator Great 84. Shout out to him. He came over on the Swamp Talk forum and gave a great post about Jamari Lyons and what he had seen from him in the practices that he'd been able to watch in training camp, and just how much he was rooting for the guy coming back from injury, because he was also around the program last year and saw how much he had been trending in training camp. Yeah. So big to have number 95 back in that middle.
And when Cam Jackson and Desmond Watson finished their careers following last season, there was some thought to going out and maybe getting a nose tackle in the portal. In fact, Florida did sniff around with one big player. Was a Keyshawn. I was going to forget his name. A big player who ended up going elsewhere. But I think they ultimately determined that the money it would cost versus, hey, we got this guy coming back. If he gets to be 100% healthy, he can be as good, if not better, than these guys that are out in the portal. And they ultimately went in that direction. And, lo and behold, Jamari Lyons kept making progress. And it looks like he's going to be good to go. And I think everybody's rooting for him. All right, Zach, the next topic. This is an interesting one because Long Island University only won 4 games last year at the FCS level. Okay, now they did win 4 of their last 6, I want to say. So they started off horribly, won 4 of their last 6 and 3 of their last 4. So they started playing better toward the end of the season. They've got a veteran coach. They've got a talented quarterback. But let's be honest. We all know what's probably going to happen Saturday in the Swamp. So if you're a Florida fan or a Florida coach, what can be learned from a game like this where one team is really going to be overmatched, and it's not going to be Florida that's overmatched. They're going to be the one that's the big dog in this fight. So what can you learn if you're a Florida fan or a Florida coach, Zach?
The biggest thing that you can learn in a matchup like this, where Florida should take care of business, build a big lead, and be able to rest their starters, is you're going to get a good look at where this roster is at from a personnel standpoint. You're going to get to see not just the second team players, but the third team players, and maybe even some 4-string guys and walk-ons. These are one of those games, that presents that opportunity for those players and for these coaches to see what they have, and certainly for the fans to get to check these guys out, because many of them will not have many of those opportunities throughout the season, and unless Florida gets up big in a game, and that could happen again, but this is one where it certainly should happen. So to be able, there's been a lot of competition in the offseason, Keith, for a lot of backup roles, for a lot of number 3 roles, and to kind of get a chance to see those guys in the season opener in those roles and how they perform. I'm looking forward to it because, one thing we're also going to learn on Saturday is what this depth chart looks like, because Napier is not releasing depth charts anymore. He stopped doing it last season. He did do it throughout. I want to say he did it every week during the 2022 and 2023 seasons. I have to go back and double check on that. I'm pretty sure he did. And then 2024 released a week 1 depth chart and then didn't do another one the rest of the year. And then this year they've decided to not do it at all. So we'll have our projected depth chart at Gators Online on Friday that you guys can go check out and read. And we've got some scoop in there as well that you'll be able to see. But we'll know for sure with actual proof on the field what it looks like on Saturday.
Do I need to wait until? I mean, can you not talk about who you think the number 2 QB would be now? Is that something you want?
I know I
people
can
to
because
Okay.
because that is something that I think is still evolving, But yeah, we
Okay.
can talk about it.
Okay. Well, what's your
Uh,
gut telling you on that one?
Man, I mean,
It's tough, isn't it?
my gut tells me that you brought Harrison Bailey here for a reason, and it was to be your backup quarterback. And I think until he goes out there and performs poorly or gives you enough reason to not give him that role, I think that he's going to get that opportunity. But I do think that we could see and probably should see all 4 quarterbacks in this first game. Hell, give each guy a quarter. I'd love to see Trammell there in the 4th. And I hope he gets an opportunity because we've heard a lot of good stuff about him. But it does seem like the competition has been primarily between Aiden and Harrison. And I certainly don't want to write Aiden off yet because it seems like he, calling it like it is, for the majority of the offseason, it seems like he's gotten more of the work with the first team offense while DJ was out. Harrison has gotten plenty of work as well, but it was a true competition. I do think that they will give, whenever they pull DJ out of the game against Long Island, I do think Harrison will be the next guy up.
There aren't going to be, you look at the schedule, there's a lot of tough games. There aren't too many games that are going to be probably major blowouts. Now, sometimes the ball bounces a funny way and you beat a good team by 30 as well. But Trammell Jones, the true freshman quarterback, may not have a ton of opportunities to play this season. I'm looking at this game. I'm looking at maybe the Mississippi State game. I mean, who knows about, well, maybe, but we don't know. They got a lot of starters back, and last year they took Alabama and Miami into the second half, Alabama deep into the fourth quarter. So you just don't know, but definitely this game. So I'd love to see Trammell Jones get some action in this game because you don't know when the extra opportunities or the next opportunities.
Also would love to see some of the walk-ons too, man. Like those guys bust their butt all off season. I hope they get to play.
Well, and not only that, Zach, I think about this. They spend 12 months a year or whatever, however long the off season is. It's not 12 months, getting ready for a season. And then you start playing games, and it's such a process to get ready for these games. And then what happens is you get a 28-point lead, and the first thing a head coach does is try to shorten the game and get it over as fast as possible so they get out of there with the W. Get out of there with the W, make sure nobody's hurt. And what happens is between that and the new rules the last several years, the games are going by quicker, which means fewer plays. Fewer plays means fewer opportunities. So there were guys last year that got to play late in the season in the bowl game, let's say, that barely got to play at all during the season because there's just so few opportunities. And we're going to see even fewer opportunities when the SEC goes to that 9-game schedule. So you're right. Getting these young guys out there, getting those walk-ons. For some of these guys, it may be the only time they ever get to play in a game, and that's significant. Besides that number 2 quarterback position, Zach, give me 2. I know we didn't prepare for this part, but give me 2 positions where you're curious to see who that next man out's going to be after the starter.
Yeah, that's a great question, Keith. And now that you mentioned that, I'm gonna pull up this story that we did at Gators Online this week, which is what we learned in training camp.
Yeah, I didn't mean to leave you hanging there, buddy.
No, you're good because we did learn a lot in training camp about who some of those number 2 guys and who some of those number 3 guys are. But there are still some positions that are unsettled, I think. I would probably say one for sure, Keith, is the 2 deep at corner. We know who the top 3 guys are. Who is that 4th corner? Who is the guy that they rep the most with that second team defensive unit? I think it's going to be Ben Hanks III, but it could be Teddy Foster. Maybe it's one of the other freshmen. I think it's going to be Ben Hanks III, but I want to see who is it, and then 2, how do they play? I think that's big. And then also, I mean, I'm very interested to see just in general the linebacker rotation. Who the starters are going to be, but also who the backups are going to be, and how they pair those guys. Who's playing the Mike? Who's playing the Will? That's going to be fascinating to watch. And then certainly, I think last but not least, Keith, at receiver, just, we've got a good idea of who the starters are and maybe the top 4 receivers. But once they go to their second team unit, what does that rotation look like? I'm intrigued to see.
Okay. I mean, we don't suspect there to be too many surprises, right? I mean, well, what about the starting lineup? I mean, occasionally somebody will pop up and you're like, wait a second, when did this happen?
I'm calling it now, but
Okay.
Vernell Brown III is going to start.
I like that move. Yeah.
I don't know if he'll start throughout the season, but he's going to start on Saturday.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a big deal because there's only been 2 other receivers in school history that have started a season opener as a true freshman.
Who were they? Do we know? No, well, Collinsworth was playing, but as a quarterback. Was it Riddell and Ike? One of those 2?
No, one of them. The last one was Antonio Callaway.
Wow.
And the first one was Percy Harvin.
Oh, well,
so pretty good company there.
Yeah, pretty good group. Now, obviously, freshmen couldn't play back in certain eras, and
that's right. And then the other guy is Jaden Woods. I don't know if he'll be out there on the first snap, Keith, but he's going to play a lot with the starters.
He's a freak apparently, man-child out there. All right, you ready to move on to the next category? You want to do the ag league now, or wait?
Yeah. Let's where we at? No, we'll do one more topic.
So breakout players for 2025. Breakout players. This is kind of it's an important category because
I might have just named one.
Well, probably. Every year there's guys that just they take that next step, and we've been doing a ton of previews. We've done a ton of features, and as I go through, and I know you're doing the same thing, we're looking at these guys' bios, and you're looking at from year to year. And man, there's a lot of guys that played 2 or 3 games that first year, started 2 or 3 games the second year, and then they just incremental moves, and then they had that breakout year. So who do you think? Let's just say a couple guys on offense, a couple guys on defense. We'll start with offense, some breakout guys to watch, and I'll give my take, but it won't be as good as yours, I'm sure.
Well, let's start with some of the breakout guys last year. I think last year on offense, you would say Jaden Baugh and Jacoby Jackson certainly were breakout players. I think Shamir Dike was a breakout player. I think everybody expected Elijah Badger to be what he was. I don't think people expected that from Shamir Dike. So having said that, it's hard to say KD Daniels is going to be a breakout necessarily, because I do think that it is going to primarily be a 1-2 punch of Baugh and Jackson. But Billy would be the first to tell you that they play their third running back. So he is going to play, and I think that he's going to be a guy that shows up and breaks out and is somebody that makes enough plays that he's going to be a factor in the future. The second guy that I would say, or should I say, second guy I would say is Amir Jackson. I don't know again how much how often he will make plays, but he will make plays. He's the number 3 tight end, so he's like your number 3 running back. They're going to use him, but Napier has gone out of his way to praise him and kind of how he stepped up and developed as a tight end, because Keith, as you know, he's basically a receiver in high school. And then there's going to be, I think, multiple breakouts at wideout. Vernell Brown is going to be one of them. I think Dallas Wilson is going to be one of them when he gets back. I think J. Michael Sturdivant is going to be one, but again, he kind of falls into he falls into the Elijah Badger category. Like, people know that he's going to be an instant impact guy, and he will be. So it's hard to say that for J. Michael Sturdivant. But I definitely think for sure the 2 true freshman receivers will be those guys.
Before we go to defense, I'll give you my guys. I like your pick of KD Daniels. I just think he's going to be one of these guys, man, that big things are going to happen a lot when he touches the ball, and it's going to be hard to overlook him in any game plan. I just think he's going to be a guy that they're going to make sure he gets 100 or more carries this season, and I think he's just a big play waiting to happen. So I like the pick.
I agree with that.
And it's weird to say that about the third team running back, but look, who was the third and fourth team running backs to start the season last year?
Yeah, Jaden Baugh and Jacoby Jackson.
Yeah, so sometimes you give a guy an opportunity, man, and they just take it. And when you look at him, he just looks different, man. He's put together well, and I really think Katie Daniels is going to be something special. The other guy out of the receivers, and I love the Vernell Brown pick, believe me, and I stand by this. I think Vernell Brown, if he stays 4 seasons, is going to be 150. I think he's going to be a guy that catches 150 more balls. I think he's going to be one of those guys we're going to talk about with the Willie Jacksons and those guys among the all-time leading receivers at Florida.
The Bubba Caldwells.
Absolutely believe that. But I'm going to go with Aiden Mizell. I think, again, a guy that's made incremental improvement each season. And I think he's now primed to get into that 28 to 35 catch range for this year. And as you pointed out in a feature just a few weeks ago, he's really good friends with DJ Lagway. Man,
Big
that's
deal.
not a bad, that's smart thinking there. Our buddy Chris Doring, friend of the show, who was on with us this week. Well, you remember who he used to room with on the road? Danny Werfel.
Smart guy.
Hey, this ain't no dummy, okay? All right. So, no, and I'm not saying that has a lot to do with it, but they're building chemistry. And so, in other words, this is how it might work. DJ wants to go throw on an off day. He's going to go with his buddy. And you do develop a chemistry. And I don't think intentionally he's going to seek out his buddy to throw to. All I'm saying is I don't think that it hurts. Let's put it that way. So, anyway. All right. Defense, Zach. Breakout players on defense. I know who you're going to say because I damn sure know who I'm going to say.
Yeah, well, again, I want to revisit last year. I would say Gums was certainly a breakout player. I don't think anybody saw that coming. He ended up being second on the team in sacks, second on the team in tackles for loss, was a starter by the end of the year. He certainly falls into that category, and I wouldn't call – hard to call Pup Howard a breakout because he was very highly touted coming out of the transfer portal. But still, this guy has played 2 seasons of college football, both in the SEC, and has yet to miss a tackle. 90.4 tackle grade on PFF last year, which was number 4 nationally. So I think that he's got a chance to really kind of just cement himself as maybe one of the best linebackers in the SEC. If he can get back healthy and have a full year. So this year, I mentioned Jaden Woods. It's happening, folks. Like that guy. He was, we named 2 true freshmen that were named to the All-American list for On 3, and one of them was Dallas Wilson. The other one was Jaden Woods. I like that pick. I think he's certainly going to be a dude. Miles Graham for sure. He's got a chance to really emerge on the scene as he's going to be a starting linebacker for the Gators. And then last but not least, I don't know if I'm stealing your pick here, but
Probably.
You got to go with Cormani McClain. I mean, this is his year to, he is SEC ready. He's in the best shape of his life. He's in the best condition of his life. He's in the best space in his life, and he's going to have every opportunity to play a lot in this secondary, and he's got a chance to kind of really start tapping into that 5-star billing that he had coming out of high school.
You didn't steal my second pick. My first one, I'm just going to tell you, I'm doing 2 linebackers. I think if there was a burner account and I was running it, it would probably be called Miles Graham Fan. You know what I mean? I just think he is a dude. I was at his last high school game. In fact, I'm lucky. I started putting together a list of the guys whose last high school games I went to. You learn a lot about a guy. I was at Tim Tebow's last high school game, Zach. He won the state championship at Nice, 44-37 over. I know this is long-winded. I'll get to my point. He beat Tampa Armwood, Sefner Armwood, 44-37, threw for a lot of yards, ran for a lot of yards, put himself out there at nose tackle on the defensive line on Armwood's last drive. Okay. You learn a lot about a guy in their last game. All right. Left everything on the field. Jaden Baugh diving to try to catch a touchdown. Final play of the game. Overthrow. Can't get it. He done everything in the game. Interception, long touchdown. Did everything. Inconsolable, Zach. Inconsolable. That's the Jaden Baugh we know. A guy that's fighting for everything, right? Well, that's Miles Graham. A few weeks later, after watching Jaden Baugh's last game, I saw Miles Graham's last game, played out of his mind. And Buchholz lost the lead, Gainesville Buchholz, to Lakeland in the state semifinals. He did everything. Running for yards, making tackles, breaking up passes, getting in the quarterback in the backfield. inconsolable after the game. Another guy that left everything on the field.
And only played 1 year at Buchholz.
Yeah. Buchholz, baby. And you just say, you look at some of these guys and what does it mean to them? So all three of these guys, immense talent, but what does it mean to them? Miles Graham, it means so much to him. It means so. I hope I didn't call him Miles. Yeah, I hope I got his name right. Miles Graham means everything to him. I think he's going to have a breakout year. I think he's going to be 30 tackles last year as a true freshman. My guess is he's going to be the leading tackler on the team this year. And then my other breakout is the guy next to him, Aaron Childs, who I've always liked. I actually was surprised he wasn't rated a little higher coming out of high school, because once I finally met him, he's pretty. I mean, he looks, as an 18-year-old, he looked and was built like an NFL linebacker. And now the play, based on your reporting, is starting to match up with the body. He did a lot of good things last year. He got to UF late. He wasn't, not late, but he wasn't an early enrollee. He was a summer enrollee. So he was a little bit behind some of the other true freshmen. Ended up, I think, playing, I think you've reported, in every single game. So those are my two guys. And I think those are guys that are both going to be 10 to 12-year NFL guys. I firmly believe that. They're great players. They're smart. They leave it all on the field. That's what you want out of a player. That's what you want out of a linebacker. So there you go. Those are my guys.
I like it.
All right. Ad read time?
Ad read time.
Ad read time. All right. Take it away.
All right. We got another new sponsor for you guys this week. And certainly, you're going to be going to your Game Time app. You're going to be looking for tickets and finding where you're going to go. And then obviously once you get out there, it's going to get hot. It's football in the fall. And the best way to cool off is by grabbing an ice cold Modelo. This football season has officially here, and college football season is Modelo season. If you're listening to this right now, it means it's time for a reward. Reward your full-time fandom with an ice cold Modelo. Modelo is the official beer sponsor of the college football playoff. Gator Nation, you deserve a Modelo. And Keith, I know you and I probably could use one after a long night on Saturday.
Yeah, more than one. And I think if you're a Gator fan, you've probably been drinking them for the wrong reasons the last couple of years. Well, actually, it started to change last year, didn't it? Now it's celebratory Modelo drinking, right? And I think there's going to be a lot of reason, we hope, to celebrate this year. Zach, all right. Do we want to go positive or negative as we reach the final quarter of the show? Do you want to start with the positive stuff or the concerns?
We've been giving them a lot of positive here the last few segments. So let's bad news first.
All right. Biggest concerns going into this season, a couple that come to mind. What would you say?
Well, certainly the first thing that comes to mind is just Lagway and how his time off will impact him. I don't think it will hold him back necessarily. I don't think it's going to keep him from having the type of year he wants to have or performing at the level, but it is still something that he's working his way back from and is going to have to, kind of sharpen up before he gets to SEC play. So just seeing how he is coming off of that much time away from live game reps, how that impacts, a lot of things. So I don't necessarily have concerns that he will be able to overcome whatever he's dealing with, but there is undoubtedly going to be, some growing pains or just something that comes with missing that much time. So that certainly falls into the concern category. Outside of that, I don't know what I could point to on offense. I think that if they've got DJ healthy and in rhythm and on top of his game and in the flow state, as he likes to talk about, Florida should have no concerns on offense and a lot of reasons for optimism. But then defensively, I think a little bit like the quarterback spot, there's a lot of depth across the board. Linebacker, edge. I think in the secondary too, at some spots, but at other positions, it is like quarterback to where if you do have an injury, there could be some drop off, or you could be relying on, a young player or an unproven player And that doesn't necessarily mean that guy won't step up to the challenge, but that would create an unknown and potentially a drop off. And that's certainly at spots, along the defensive line, some spots in the secondary, at safety. Again, starters, what you would want and what you would ask for in terms of how good some of those guys are. They're multi-year starters. They've been in your system for several seasons. But again, there's a couple spots where you don't necessarily have the proven depth, and that's why these first couple weeks are huge to kind of get those guys that game experience they need.
I guess for me, my biggest concern, and this is more about
the schedule too.
Oh God, you got me right. You got me there. No, yeah, that's it. So, okay, well, let me ask you. I mean, you got 7 preseason top. We could talk about this. You weren't really stealing anything from me, but 7, I think, preseason top 25 AP teams on the schedule. 5 of those games, though, Zach, are away from home, and that includes the game in Jacksonville. So you get number 1 Texas preseason at home, and you get Tennessee at home, but you got to go to LSU. You got to go to Miami. You got to go to Texas A&M. You got to go to Ole Miss, and then obviously the game in Jacksonville. So, if it wasn't for this schedule, Zach, I mean, if this was just, I don't want to name any teams, but there's some other teams out there that if you reverse schedules, you're saying, hey, they're going to the playoff, man. They're going to win 10 or more games. So, and then it's the schedule beyond the schedule, Zach. So, in other words, what I mean by that is, the LSU game's tough on its own. LSU's got a ton of new players, all these transfers. We have no idea how good or not good LSU's going to be. But in week 1, they're playing at Clemson. So they're going to learn a lot about themselves that week, whereas Florida opens with Long Island and then USF before going to LSU. So some people might argue, now some people would say that Florida gets to watch LSU on video. So maybe that's an advantage for Florida. Other people would say, no, it's an advantage for LSU because they're going to know what they are, what they aren't, what they have, and what they don't have in time for that Florida game. But you've got other situations too. Now, both Texas and Georgia, both of those games, Florida has the off week going in, but so does the other team. So that's a wash. Against Ole Miss, Florida plays at Kentucky the week before in potentially the cold of Lexington. On the same day, Ole Miss plays the Citadel. You're always looking at little things like that. What advantages or disadvantages do you have based on the schedule? But Zach, that was a lot of talking by me to say nothing. But what are your general thoughts on the schedule?
I mean, it's tough. It's not as tough as it was a year ago. I think, again, to pick up where I left off, the fact that you get to open the season. I know they had an easy week 2 last year, but to get 2 weeks of opponents that you should be able to beat handedly, especially the first one. USF is going to be a tougher challenge, but still, it is for this team to be able to ease their way into the season like that's beneficial for any team, especially with one that has a starting quarterback that missed a lot of the offseason. So but having said that 4-week gauntlet is quite the stretch. I think obviously best case scenario would be to win it all. I don't know that Florida can do that. Could they go 3-1? Maybe. I think the goal or what you would want to at least do would be to split those 4 games after your 2 non-conference matchups. So although Miami's non-conference as well. But here's what's interesting though, Keith, is I feel like most people that Florida's got to at least go 2-2 during that stretch. At that point, after you play that 4-game gauntlet, you'll be at the halfway point of your season. You'll have played 6 games. But if and I don't expect Florida to go 0-4, but if they were to go 1-3, just
I'm cringing as you say that. By the way,
if they were to go 1-3, I know these fans. There would be a lot of frustration. There would be a lot of complaining. There would be a lot of doomsday. And I get all that. But they would be 3-3, and they'd be at the halfway point in the season. Could this team run the table the last half of the season? Could they go 6-0? I don't necessarily know that they can. I think at some point they'll probably take a L. But I think they're capable. I definitely think that this is the year where Florida needs to beat Georgia. I'll say that. They need to beat Georgia this year. This is the time to do it. I don't necessarily know that they will, but they've got the team and the roster turnover with UGA is set up for Florida to beat them this year. This is the year. I think that road trip to Oxford would be the next toughest game during those final 6. But you get Tennessee at home, you get Ole Miss or FSU at home. If Florida goes 6-0, then that 1-3 stretch during that 4-game gauntlet would be irrelevant. I don't necessarily think it's going to play out that way, Keith. I think they're more likely to go 2-2 during that stretch and then lose 1 game during the back half of the schedule. But it's just something to think about. I mean, it's not the end of the world if they do lose 3 games during that stretch so just something to think about.
I guess the question would be at that point, if they lose 3 in that first 4-game stretch, did they lose because they just weren't good enough, or from those losses,
sure,
were they close? Were they competitive? Were they still building? Now, this is a veteran team. I would actually argue that this year's schedule is more difficult than last year's, because I think if Miami and Florida were playing in week 1 this year, well, which one of these teams is the veteran team and the team with more cohesiveness and chemistry going into this season? It's Florida. Yeah. Now, granted, it's down there, but it was in Gainesville last year, and granted, they had a new quarterback, but they had the offensive line returning. They had a lot of veteran players, right? And I think the roles are a little reversed this year, but it's a challenging schedule. We're going to know a lot about this team very early on. I've never seen a 4-game stretch, and I'm sure there's been one before, but the 4-game stretch, because again, we don't know whether LSU, Miami, we don't know if any of these teams are going to be any good, right? I mean, LSU and Miami could both have challenging games this first week. Miami plays Notre Dame. LSU goes to Clemson. They could lose. Of course, the teams they're playing could be playoff teams. We don't know. So
and the thing about those 4 games too, Keith, is you feel like you know what every quarterback is for those teams. You know what you're getting from Nussmeier. You know what you're getting from Marcel Reed, who carved up the Gators last year, and then it's Arch Manning. So
I just think, I mean, could you just imagine though? And we're going to talk about my concerns here in a second. But
Carson Beck.
Look, I think Carson Beck's a little bit better than people give him credit for, and he's throwing behind a veteran line. Georgia's line last year wasn't as good as it has been. So anyway, another conversation. We'll talk about that.
What do you think of that thought? And I know Florida fans won't like hearing that, and I'm certainly sure the football team doesn't think they're going to go 1-3 during that stretch. No. But if they did, because they could end up taking 3 losses, Keith, to 3 playoff teams.
Yeah, and again, it's going to be determined if that happened, and it would be, how did they lose? How did they lose? By how much? Were they competitive? Were warts exposed? Or were these games that they could have won, and they see that they could have won them, and let's stay focused and let's keep our eyes on the prize, because that coaching staff would have one heck of a challenge, Zach, to keep this team motivated and focused if they somehow go 1-3 in those games. Because what does this team have that the last 3 or 4 Florida teams haven't had, Zach? You know what it is? Expectations, right? And that matters. But it can work both ways. It's a double-edged sword here. It could be the one thing that keeps them motivated. Hey, look, we're 3-3, but we do see that we were right there. And look what's ahead. If we beat Mississippi State, then a week off, and we beat Georgia, and so that would get you to 5-3 under this scenario, right? And at 5-3, you've just beaten Georgia, which means you could probably beat anybody, right?
Yeah.
So you are right there. But as a staff, they'd have to keep them focused, because when you have expectations, I mean, these guys think they're going to go 11-1, right? And losses emotionally scar you to a certain extent. So the goal of the
staff.
And
there's frustrations and
correct. And all their friends. I thought you guys said you were going to be good. You know, that kind of stuff, right? So how did they lose? And by the way, they might win all these games, quite frankly. We don't know. But
yeah, I'm just playing devil's advocate for the fans out there that is like they got to go 2-2, or they don't necessarily have to do that. Like it's not going to be the end of the world if they are 3-3 at the halfway point in the season.
There have been some very good Gator teams, and the class example, Zach, is before you were born. 1984 lost to Miami in week 1. They had a freshman quarterback named Kerwin Bell. Florida was leading late. Miami scored a touchdown, then got a pick 6 on the last play to win by 12. But it was Florida led with a few minutes left in the game. They lose that game. They turn around, and I believe what happened next? Did they tie somebody? Yes, they tied LSU at home. So they started 0-1-1, right? And at 0-1-1, you're thinking, oh, my God. And they had there was a lot of stuff going on. Their coach was about to get fired because the NCAA was in town, and they didn't lose again. So how do you stay focused? How do you look at the big picture and say, okay, we lost this game at Miami or at LSU, but here's what we can learn from it. We were close. And if we can just make this play and that play, we don't just win. We might have won by 12. So it'll be a great challenge for coach, but that's what these guys get paid for. But my biggest concerns beyond the schedule are dealing with expectations now, because they're getting a lot of love this offseason. A lot of guys are getting named to watch lists and preseason all conference teams. Now you got to go out and do it, right? Because a lot of these guys that are getting named to these teams, if you would have asked a Florida fan last November, hey, tell me who's kicking butt on the offense, some of these guys wouldn't even have been mentioned. But now they're showing up on watch lists. Now everybody's talking about them. The other thing is I need to see, and I think everybody does, more consistency. I love Caleb Banks. I love what he did against LSU. I'm picking on him, unfortunately. And by the way, nicest guy in the world. I love what he did against LSU and Ole Miss last year, flat out dominant. But they need him to be that guy for 10, 11, 12 games, not 2 games. And there's a bunch of guys on this team like that, where in flashes they were great, Zach, but they need more consistency out of them. Because that's what – look, all these guys did a lot last year to get mentioned for preseason honors and preseason awards. The team won 8 games. The team wasn't ranked. The team won 7 games in the regular season. So there is room to grow, and that's how you do it. Because if you look at – I'm going on and on, Zach, I'm sorry, but you look individually – wouldn't you agree that there's a lot of good pieces? It's now how do these pieces come together? And if they come together well, man, I mean, maybe this is a special team. We're going to see.
Yeah, I mean, there's the reasons for optimism are plenty. The depth of this team, the 2 deep, the returning starters, some of the guys that they have that are projected to be all SEC type players, maybe all American type players. You've got NFL players on this roster, guys that could be first round picks. And I think the biggest thing is, or one of the biggest things, should I say, is while there are a lot of young, talented underclassmen that make up a huge portion of what this roster and what this starting lineup is. There's a lot of veteran leadership and presence and guys that have been in this program for multiple years, that have been in these systems for multiple years on offense and defense. And yes, Ron Roberts is in his 2nd year, but they have been running his system since Billy Napier got to Gainesville. So just the familiarity that they have as a unit on offense and defense, with the play calls, with the playbook, with their coaches, with their teammates. I mean, that's what you build these rosters for, to have what Florida has right now. So again, you're never going to be exactly where you want in terms of depth, or so like we talked about with the concerns, there are some spots. Obviously you lose your starting quarterback, there's a drop off with the backup situation, and maybe there's a drop off with some backups on defense. But by and large, Florida's 2 deep is very good, and there's a lot of positions where there isn't much of a drop-off, if at all, from the first to the second guy, which is why they have so many co-starters sprinkled throughout the roster. I would say Jaden Baugh and Jacoby Jackson. I think Jaden Baugh is clearly the RB1, but as much as they're going to use and play Jacoby Jackson, I think they look at him as a starter. Sharif Denson, Aaron Gates, those are starters. Tyreek Sapp, Cam James, those are both starters. George Gums and Jaden Woods, both starters. I mean, I can keep going, and you can say that about a lot of positions, and that's, again, goes back to the reasons for optimism.
Like I said, I mean, one of my reasons for optimism leads to a reason for concern, and that was the individually and position group by position group. You see, I mean, I think they got a pretty good quarterback. I think most people would agree with that. A guy, by the way, like Chris Doring says, elevates everybody around him. They all play better. They rise up.
Yeah.
You like the running game. The offensive line's got 4 starters back and a 5th starter that they think has incredible potential in Bryce Lovett. The receivers, a lot of talent. The tight ends may not be the most versatile and dynamic group, but they're not bad. And by the way, they fit that system pretty dang well, what Florida does. Okay.
It should also be worth noting too, Keith, that there are new coaches too on the defensive side of the ball. So seeing how those guys adjust into the new scheme. I don't think there's much concern there because one, Darren Wilson has been in the program once before, and then Vinny Cincinnati seems like he's got a good rapport with Roberts, and certainly Robert Balla does. But that is something that early on in the season they'll be working through some new additions.
Well, again, get back to that offense. You're looking individually. Well, there's a lot of parts there, a lot of great pieces, but they didn't average. I think they averaged 28 points a game last year. Now, look, they had 2 starting quarterbacks get hurt. Both of them, Mertz got hurt a couple times. Lagway missed a game. He played injured. I mean, those all impact your numbers. But I think all of us and the fans out there are waiting for that Napier offense to have that breakout season. Hadn't had that yet. So, averaged less than 400 yards a game last year. And again, we talked about what led to some of that. But where's the, want to see more consistency, more explosiveness, more big plays. I mean, it's all out there, but the potential certainly is there. I mean, you look at, if you want to be able to run the ball, they've got guys that can do that. They got a line that can block. They got receivers that can go deep. They got receivers like Eugene Wilson and Vernell Brown that can go underneath. They got tight ends that can work out of 12 personnel or get you 15, 20 yards in the passing game. They got a quarterback that's great in the pocket, but also is great under duress and improvising. I mean, you look at that offense and you don't say there's too many things where you're like, man, I don't know that they can do this. They got a lot of things where you say, I think they can do this. Now, I will say this, the offensive line, I'm curious to see, you've got Jake Slaughter, returning AP All-American, Austin Barber, a preseason all-SEC pick at left tackle. So out of the 16 teams in the SEC, Zach, Florida's got 2 of the starting 5 on the first team on the offensive line. I want to see if this is the real deal. I want to see if these guys are the real deal. Now, we know Jake Slaughter probably is, but I want to see the rest of these guys because, again, looking back, it's you're trying to remember, were they dominant last year? Can they be dominant this year? All the pieces are there, and the coaches, Rob Sale, John DeCoster, have done an outstanding job with this line. They're optimistic. The players are optimistic, but we still need to see more. I mean, we still need to see more out of these guys. If they're as good as people think they could be, then the offense could be special. But just putting it all together and more consistency, that's really the big thing for me.
Yep.
Next topic, you ready?
Yeah, last one. Prediction time. I don't think people are going to have much doubt about where we're going here.
I'll tell you what, mine's going to be shorter. I'll go first, Zach. How about that? Look, Long Island, it made some real progress last year at the end of the year. They got a dynamic quarterback. He's going to be able to run the ball. He's probably a better runner than he is passer. It's really a great story. I think he's from Long Island, and so he's real excited about this opportunity. And I know he wants to score. I read a big article about him in one of the New York papers. And but they're just going to be overmatched. We all know this. So prediction 58-6, I will say. And everybody comes out of it healthy, and it's a win-win. Lagway's going to look good. We're going to see some of the young receivers do some things. I just, I don't know how much we're really going to learn from it, but it'll be a good feel-good game. And Florida can say, hey, we've won 5 in a row now. And that's going to be actually one of the longest winning streaks in college football at that point. Get yourself a little bit of confidence, get yourself a little momentum because the bigger games are coming. And USF will mean everything to them. That will mean everything to them.
It's a Super Bowl.
You better be ready for that one. And I think it'll be a good feel-good day. Everybody excited to get back out there and root these guys on. And hopefully it's going to be the start of a good season.
Yeah, I haven't settled on a score yet. I'll have that at Gators Online Friday in our score predictions. And really, it's really I'm just curious. One, how much DJ plays. How much does Florida score when he's in the game? Because I think that could determine how much they end up with. If they intend to play him for at least a quarter and a half or so, and I mean, if it's 35-0, but at that point, then I think that Florida could end up scoring 60, 70 points. If Florida is in any way sloppy to start or has a turnover or has to punt, which I don't expect, but it could happen. I mean, and look, let's be honest. This is, again, DJ's first time playing in a setting like this since the bowl game, really, because he didn't scrimmage in either of the scrimmages in training camp. So Obviously, he's going to get 11 on 11 work in practice and has been. But, if he comes out of the game and it's, 24-0, maybe Florida only ends up, scoring in the 50s. But to me, that's the only difference of how much Florida is going to score is how much do they put on the board while DJ's in the game. I don't expect the defense to give up, more than I think the starting defense will pitch a shutout, and then maybe the second and third team units end up giving up a touchdown or field goal or so. But this is going to be should be an easy, stress-free, hopefully injury-free game for the Gators, where they get a good look at their roster, Keith, and a lot of things that they can work on going into week 2.
Yeah, and I like the fact that this Long Island quarterback can run, because that gets you prepared for the USF quarterback who's pretty mobile. So
that's right. And Marcel Reed.
That's right. I like and Arch Manning too, by the way. So I like how it all sets up. Zach, I put in a season prediction of 9-3, and I could see 10 wins. I could also see 8 or 7, but I like 9 wins, and I think that potentially gets Florida in the playoff conversation. I mean, we'd like to think it automatically gets them in the playoff, but a lot of that will be determined by how many teams would be ahead of them in the SEC standings, all that. There's a lot of unknown variables here, but this looks like a 9-10 win type of season. I'm optimistic about that. I can't recall. Were you 10-2? Was that your pick, or were you 9-3?
No, we were all 9-3 at Gators Online. Although it was interesting, I want to say, I think Blake's picks were the same as mine, but we all picked a little bit different on what some of those losses would be. But I thought it was interesting that we all did go with 9-3, because I think that's how we kind of view this team going into the year. I think that's how a lot of Florida fans view this team this is a roster and a squad that is capable of winning 9 games, and not just winning 9 games, but playing well enough and getting enough wins that they can be worthy of a playoff spot. And to me, Keith, if they get into the playoff, regardless of what happens in the postseason, it's going to be a success. Because that's going to be a huge step in the right direction.
Well, it's kind of one of these things. I still want to see a little bit more. We just got that little sample last year, because really FSU was terrible, and Tulane, that was a weird bowl game where their QB was gone and all that stuff. But we got that impressive sample size of those 2 games, the LSU
in the swamp.
Yeah. That's right, in the swamp. Games that, quite frankly, could have gone. They were tough games, right? And Florida showed a lot of character in winning those games, and a lot of talent too, but a lot of character. And so we've just gotten that morsel of success, that small taste of them seeing success. And so we're all curious to see what the next step is. Some people argue that one season doesn't carry over into the next, and we'll see if it does or doesn't. But
the one thing I would add to that, though, Keith, is, and you're not wrong, because I think the LSU and Ole Miss games are where they put it together.
I agree.
But there were, with DJ at least, there are definitely those moments against Samford and Kentucky and even Georgia, where you're like, all right, like all the firepower is potentially there for this to be a dynamic offense. And it was at times, like you said, going back to your concerns, can they put it all together over the course of a full season? Be a team that scores over 30 points in every game, be an offensive line that just blows people off the ball, doesn't let anybody touch DJ. They've got the capacity to do it. But it's going to be fun, man. We've done all this talking, Keith, and it's finally here, man. We get to see football be played on Saturday in the swamp.
The one thing I wouldn't underestimate is that, and again, Doring mentioned it, of all people, Chris Doring, DJ's ability to elevate those around him, not just by getting them the ball, but people just raise their play. And we've seen it with some other players in college football. And some guys just have that it factor. And, he only lost the 1 game in 7 starts last year, and he was injured in that game. Florida, maybe they go on to win that game if he doesn't get hurt. We'll never know. I believe when he was a senior in high school, I want to say, Zach, he only lost 1 game, I think, his senior year. And it was the last game where his team was just completely overmatched. He could have been Superman out there and it wouldn't have mattered, right? Something about this guy. He is just an absolute winner. And I think it's rubbing off on the other guys over there. So we'll see. Yeah. A long season ahead.
And, probably, leave people on this, Keith, but but I think it's important that I bring this up. One of the probably most impressive moments for DJ to me, one of the most, was the play and throw that he made to send the Tennessee game into overtime. And the reason that I say that is because he had played so poorly leading up to that. He had thrown an interception. He had multiple 3-and-outs. Florida lost the lead while he was the quarterback. Remember, Graham Mertz gets knocked out of that game with Florida up 10-3 in the second half. And Tennessee ends up taking the lead, and a lot of it had to do with DJ's inability to move the ball and his turnover. So for him to go through that in that environment, in that situation, and to show the resilience to make a throw like that, that was kind of obviously we saw what he did against Samford, but that throw against the Vols, that was big time. And I know from hearing from people that were in that locker room after the game, Keith, that was a big moment for that team. When they lost at Tennessee, they felt like they gave that game away. Graham had been lost for the season. It was an emotional locker room. And I had somebody tell me that the way that the guys addressed each other and kind of were honest and didn't hold back and kind of said how they felt and got emotions off their chest, that was a turning point for that team and brought them closer. And they really kind of never looked back on that because that next week against Kentucky, man, they took off.
All right. Talking season is officially over. It's time to spot the ball, as they say. Zachary,
that's right.
Spot the ball. But before we go, that'll do it for the show. We want to start giving plugs out to businesses that we're fans of, because if people are good to us, why not give a little bit back? So Zach, what's your one plug here on the way out? And I'll give mine.
Yeah, definitely. We've given this business a shout out before, but definitely want to do it again. Prairie Dental Center is a local business in Gainesville. The doctor's a UF grad. He's been in business for over 3 decades. Can do all type of dental work. Keith, he does the dental work that a lot of these new school dentists don't even do. Inlays and onlays and stuff like that. So he's one of those guys that before he just saws your teeth down and puts a crown on it, he's going to try to do everything that he can to save your teeth. So one of the best dentists that you could have, and definitely if you're in the Gainesville area, go give him a shout. All
right, mine, a quick one. I spelled it wrong. I got to fix it. Here we go. Let's make it quick. Los Chapos Tacos in Tampa. Los Chapos Tacos in Tampa. It's on 7th Avenue, West Ybor City, right down the road from where I live. Great people, great service. I'm not getting anything free out of this, although, I wouldn't turn it down. Let's put it that way. But the best tacos, the best burritos, and what I get are the nachos, man. They're cooking the meat in the back. I love Los Chapos, and great hospitality there. So that will do it. And that's it for this edition of the Gators Online Show. We want to thank all of you for stopping by, and make sure you like and subscribe down below. And also make sure you go check out all of our great content every day at gatorsonline.com. We've got a lot of premium articles, obviously, that are only for our subscribers, but we also put up our fair share of free articles. We know not everybody can there's people, everybody's got different financial means. We understand that, but we hope everybody enjoys the show, and we will do it again soon. If you're heading up to Gainesville Saturday night, be careful, especially driving home. It's going to be late. You know how those roads are, Zach, at 1, 2 in the morning. So everybody, don't be stupid, be smart, be safe. Enjoy the big weekend. It's finally here. Take care, everybody.